My therapist told me to say that I'm noticing I'm having the feeling of instead of I am, because it is supposed to separate you from the feeling. You are not the feeling. Anxiety is not you. Overwhelm is not you. It's just, you're just harboring it. If you notice it's there, it's like, I'm not trying to push you away. I see you. But can we maybe try and continue doing things while you're there? I am noticing that I'm having the feeling of I don't know.
It's hard.
I want to talk about studies and smaller pieces, leg warmers, hats, wall hangs, and at the very like literal end, swatches. In this case, we're talking about leg warmers. This is my 4th pair of leg warmers this week. I can't stop making them. They're a wonderful way to use up scrap yarn, and to also have a really, really cute piece that works up so quickly that is in a hat. After spending every day this week knitting leg warmers, I've noticed a few things happening. One, I feel like I'm starting to develop a way and a really deep understanding of the construction of leg warmers. For example, I've started using elastic. Now they stay up and it adds such beautiful shape to it. And it really just brings them up to like that next level of quality, I think. Number 2, I'm working on pieces that are a few hours of work, an afternoon and a night of work. And they are becoming to function almost like studies. Because I have such a short time commitment, there really is less risk involved when it comes to trying out new things. For example, the leg warmers I was making yesterday, I undid a whole section and started again because I didn't like the texture and the color palette that was happening, and it didn't feel like it was breaking my heart, because realistically I just undid 10 minutes of work, not 4 hours like you would if you have to undo a sweater if you don't like it. So the committing part, there's much less attached to it, and so doing things like experimenting or trying something different and it not working, it doesn't hold as much weight as doing that with a bigger piece. The role that it means it's playing is like, the more time I spend on quick pieces, therefore the more different pieces I'm making and the more new things I'm trying, I'm now starting to feel it kind of get my brain ticking over of like, what could I do for bigger pieces with these kinds of styles? Right now, haven't done this in a while, I'm mixing 3 kinds of yarn together. And it's creating this beautiful texture, and I don't do it that much I haven't done this in a long time on larger pieces. I've been working really with like single yarn and much less colors. This leg warmer I just made is probably the most colorful thing I've made in a while. And it's just like, it's making me really excited to try and transfer the kind of thing I've gone for here to a larger piece. I think there's something really valuable in spending time on small details, because you can really start to like work through things and dig really deep into one thing. It's all about restriction, right? Like, the restriction with this is size there's a restriction to it in that way, but there's also a time freedom where you're not going to be stuck in this for like a week. You're stuck on it for an afternoon, and so the motivation to really just dig in and like explore within the restrictions you have placed around it is so much more alluring, and I'm loving it. And I just wanted to talk about that because a lot of artists practice in this way with having studies. I think, like, you know, sketching is one of the best examples to compare it to. If someone's, you know, an artist brings out a sketchbook into the street and starts just sketching from life and things that they're doing, and they're just little studies about form and all of that, and it's like, this for me is playing a really similar role. I'm studying form, I'm studying stitches and color combinations and texture, and because if you're working on a really larger piece, some of that freedom feels like it sometimes goes away, or it doesn't go away. I think that it's like every now and then delving into things with a study mindset, it all of a sudden puts your brain into this place of like, oh, this is experiment land. I have no restrictions here and no time commitment, and so it can really just like play around and get like creative with it. And then I feel like this is contributing to developing style. I think as an artist, your style is such an important thing to develop, your voice. The thing that when people look at your work, it's like, oh, that's a dordy piece. And it's kind of in my brain at the moment, I'm kind of like, you know, you can't force that, but I'm becoming a bit more aware of like, I'm starting to feel really, really connected to my work. And in terms of process, I'm starting to feel like it's really like in my fingers, in my second nature kind of area. And I can feel it moving towards a thing of like, I really want to discover my style and find some sort of consistency, which is why I've started just focusing on leg warmers exclusively for a little bit, because I'm like, I want to sit in one place for a while. Because I only have been knitting since April and crocheting since January, I feel like for a long time it's been, oh, I want to make this kind of piece and I want to make this kind of piece, and every time I make a new piece it's something completely different, and that's been really good because it's been expanding like my techniques and what tools I have under my belt and what I can make and my understanding of clothes construction and all of that. But lately I've been in this place of really wanting to dig deep into one area, even if just for a few weeks. And so I've chosen leg warmers as almost quite consciously, as I'm gonna just make a bunch of leg warmers and develop something inside that, because I love making them, and so I want to make leg warmers like a thing that I do regular drops with. Yeah, this just feels like a really good place at the moment. I guess in art, you want there to be a certain level of fluency, a really deep understanding to your practice and to your process, so that you can develop a voice and develop a personal style and something that is your take on things in a truly unique and individual way. And I really don't think it's possible without spending time in the details. When you embark on the uncomfortable journey of empty brain, having to come up with the details and create something from nothing, of course you'll make work that is yours, and of course you'll find your voice and your style, and it can't be done any other way. It has to be done with persistence and consistency and sometimes obsession. It's quite like childhood joy, really, to put it plainly. And it's just making me really, really happy, and I just want to reflect on that. I just want to reflect on the importance of the details and the importance of stepping back and sitting in some restriction and experimenting and not being pressured by the rush of the online thing, but being driven by your need to create and your desire to experiment and push your practice further, exercise your creativity. It's where the emphasis should be placed. It's really difficult when you start bringing social media into the mix, because it's like, I must be making stuff all the time and showing people and getting it out and, you know, being consistent, and that's all true. And I think there's ways to do that. I'd love to talk about that too. That's something I'm really interested in, is, you know, making social media almost a creative outlet as much as possible to stop it from feeling like such a slog, which it is. But that's for another thing. You've got to find some place within all of that, and it can't just be for the online thing, because that's what burns you out. You can't do it for that. You can't do it for other people. And so it's like, what areas can you find restriction in? What areas can you sit in for a while? And how can you really build a strong connection to a small segment of your practice that will in turn absolutely, definitely influence your practice further in larger pieces, in bigger works, in collections. You're building a language. That's what you're doing. You're building a language, and it's your language, and you can't find your language unless you absolutely involve yourself in it completely. So where can you find restriction? Where can you sink in deeper? What smaller pieces can you use as studies? Think about it. No more of this. I just need to thread some yarn into a needle. I just need to thread some yarn into a needle. I just need to thread some yarn into a needle. That's all I need to do. I can do that. I can do that. Music. I need to put music on. That's what I need to do. Radiohead will fix me. Right? Radiohead will fix me.